Good morning. Welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. It is June 7th, 2024. This is episode 191. Oh my gosh, I'm almost at 200 episodes of my podcast, which has experienced no growth whatsoever. Not any sort of incremental growth. So, to anybody out there who is listening and gaining either some inspiration or some insight or just a morbid curiosity about my journey as a stand-up comedian and an actor, I am very much grateful for any insight that I might provide as I document my journey to glory. So, yesterday, whoa, my goodness, did I have myself a day. So I had woke up extremely early because I'd actually fallen asleep the night before, which is very rare. And I woke up at 5 in the morning and then just sort of hung out for a couple hours. And then I had some work meetings and some other things to take care of. And then when lunch came around, I had scheduled a session at my new gym that I've been taking fitness classes at, and it has been kicking my butt, and my my whole hip has just been it just has felt out of place, like it has been painful to walk. And so before the workout, I actually went to a quick chiropractic adjustment, and it just wasn't very good. And the guy literally said nothing to me. He didn't ask what was going on, which, by the way, I have kind of noticed that no matter what I tell a chiropractor, the problem is they do the exact same thing every single time. It's the exact same adjustments. It's like 2 pops on the neck, right, left. They'll kind of pop down the spine, and then they'll just do lay on your side, pop the hip, lay on the other side, pop the hip. No matter what I tell them, I've never had anything else other than that very basic procedures. Now, some may, do some other stuff. They'll hit your shoulder with that little pressure gun. I've had some put heating pads on or electrodes. That actually was really nice because then it really relaxed the muscles. But it does feel nice to get those adjustments. And so I go to the chiropractor. He doesn't even ask me what's going on. He just says, lay down. He does the 5. Neck, back, hip. So I was like, all right, well, whatever. So then I go to the gym. And that morning, I had gotten a bit of a mild migraine. Now, I get 2 types of migraines fairly regularly. One of them, I just call it an ocular migraine, where I sort of have this flurry of sort of color in my peripheral vision. And what will happen is it'll kind of start here. If you're listening to this, you can't really see what I'm doing, but kind of starts at this part of my eye and then kind of expands outward from my eye. And it's just this, I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of do you remember old televisions, before the internet and streaming, that when it wasn't on a station, there would be those fast-moving black and white kind of snow, there's just a snow pattern is the best thing I can describe it as, just fast-moving black and white dots. It's kind of like that, but instead of black and white, it's white and a spectrum of color alternating really fast. And it sort of starts in kind of a ball, a small ball in my, it's if I'm looking at something, I can see it just off to the right, but I can't look at it. If I look to the right, it keeps moving. So it's in a fixed position in my eye. So whatever's happening neurologically, it pings that part of my vision. And then it starts as a little ball, and then it starts to expand into sort of a crescent shape, and then expands and gets bigger and bigger, and then sort of moves off to the right of my vision until it finally dissipates. And during that time, I feel just sort of uncomfortable, a little kind of woozy, a little dizzy, but I don't actually lose a lot of motor function. I'm still able to do stuff. I just kind of don't feel myself. But I've had those migraines come on during all kinds of different activities while I'm performing, before performing, while driving, while working out, while playing basketball, while writing, studying. I've had these migraines. The first one I ever remember having was in 8th grade. And I remember it because it happened during the middle of a band concert. And I was playing percussion, and I actually had a glockenspiel solo. And because of that little flurry of thing, it does kind of blind a little bit, just kind of one area of my vision. Not enough to where it's like I can still see fine. But this just sort of started to happen in the middle of this concert, and I'm trying to look at my music, and I just couldn't really focus on the notes very well. And it was the first time that it happened, so I didn't actually really know what was going on. It kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I remember during this little glockenspiel solo, and it's stupid simple. I'm acting like I was some sort of, glockenspiel aficionado at the time. No, it was just kind of this simple little like doon doon ding doon doon ding doon doon ding. But it was kind of like the end of the song was just this sort of exposed glockenspiel solo. And I had performed that song a couple times in the band at different concerts. And then for some reason at this time, this migraine comes on. I can't see, and I miss a couple notes, and it was kind of embarrassing. Or I something happened to where I didn't quite nail it. And that was in the 8th grade. So however old I was in the 8th grade, 12 or 13 years old maybe. And I've had them ever since. But that's just the first type of migraine. Then later in life, and I'm trying to think of the first time I'd ever gotten the second kind. Now, the second kind of migraines are just pure hell. I can describe them no other way. My body just goes into this mode to where my head just devolves into this state of pain and discomfort, and I start getting incredibly nauseous. A lot of times I will throw up. It kind of becomes one of those things to where I don't actually start to feel good again until I throw up, and sometimes a lot. I remember this one time in particular. I threw up so much, like 2 or 3 like sessions, to where it got to the point where I had nothing in me and I was just dry heaving. But my body was just in this state of convulsions and cold sweat and just pounding headache, and those are brutal, and I still get those. I still get them. The most recent one that I can remember was about a month and a half ago when I was in LA. And I do find that there are a handful of things that trigger them. One thing that definitely triggers them is when I'm dehydrated and I'm not drinking enough water, which ironically enough was not the case this morning because I have been drinking tons of water lately. I've actually been really good with my water intake, and I have decreased my soda intake to almost nothing. But the other thing is like really bad sleeping for 3 days in a row, to where, I'm staying up way late, getting up way early, 3 nights in a row, and losing tons of sleep and not really catching up. that seems to be another big trigger. So dehydration, it's a lot of times when they come on, I'll look back at the last couple of 3 days and go like, I have not had any just pure water these last couple of days. I've only had soda, which those of you who follow the podcast know that is my big addiction. And some weird sleep stuff. So anyway, this morning I have one of the ocular migraines, which again is by far less challenging and difficult and horrific than the other type. But I have this about 2 or 3 hours before my gym workout at noon. And plus, I'm all out of whack. My hamstrings are killing me from the workout I had 2 nights ago where we had done Roman deadlifts. I have this migraine, but I'm committed. It's like, I'm still going to this gym. So I go to the gym, and it's a cardio day. And it's the hardest cardio day. So they have different cardio classes, and this one is like cardio till you die class. And it's like 3x what we had done the other cardio days. Where other cardio days, you do like 30 seconds, and then you rest 30 seconds, and then you do 30 seconds, and you rest 30 seconds. This one was 3 minutes straight per exercise, and I think there were 12 stations. So it's almost 36 minutes straight of intense cardio. And I didn't get through one exercise without stealing extra breaks. About halfway through, that migraine that I'd had that morning really started to surface, and my head was really hurting. I was starting to get woozy and very nauseous. And I was like, I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to get through this whole class without either passing out or having to go relieve my belly of some food. But I did push through. Again, I wasn't really able to go hard. It's so funny because of those 3 minutes, you're supposed to get progressively more engaged. And we actually have these heart monitors on, and you can see your heart rate on the screen, and then it goes from like blue to purple to gold, and blue is sort of your resting heart rate, and then purple is when you're sort of pushing it, but then to get to gold, you have to get your heart rate like way up. And it's supposed to be do a minute in blue, a minute in purple, and then for that third minute, go hard and get to gold. Yeah, that didn't happen once. I did not get to gold. I was having a hard enough time getting it to purple. 12 stations. And by the end of that, it was, I almost, I don't know, it's like I almost couldn't drive home. Like my body was just going into some sort of weird state of like shutdown. So it was not a fun day to be starting a new workout regimen. It's like I'm 7 days in. No, I'm more than 7 days in. I'm 9 days in now. I've only not worked out 2 days. So I've done 7 workouts out of 9 days. Is that right? No, because I didn't do last Monday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I missed Saturday and Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday. So I've done 8. I guess that's 8 out of 10 then. Workouts. And yeah, yesterday was just brutal. So I had to push through all of that. Go home, go back to work, get, it's after lunch. Now I'm getting my work done and trying to like recoup from that. And I decided to go to another chiropractor who's actually a good friend of mine. But he's like, his office is like 20 minutes away from where I live. And the chiropractors that I go to are like 3 minutes away. The ones that aren't good. And so whenever I really need like a good chiropractic adjustment, then I go to my buddy. And I actually looked at my chart history and it's pretty religious. I go to him about once a year. So like once a year I'm going, I need a good chiropractic adjustment. I'm going to my buddy. So I did that. And from there, I went to a family dinner. My family had a little get-together, which was super fun. And then I went straight there to JP's Comedy Club to do an open mic. And at that open mic, I tried a brand new joke that I've never told before, a whole new bit that went actually pretty well overall. Like anything, need to refine a few things in the writing. But like my initial joke hit really well. I could tell the audience was with me, and that felt really good. And then surrounded by that, I did a bunch of newer material, most of which went pretty good. And so I felt pretty good about that. I felt pretty good that overall, like nothing bombed, I'll put it that way. Nothing was like, oh, this isn't it. There was one bit that I thought I had a few more tags to go through, and like the initial couple jokes were good, but then the tags, they kind of pulled back, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's good feedback. And then after the mic, I had two comics who I very much trust and respect their opinions, pull me aside. I mean, kind of. It's not like they were like, hey, Paul, but I was kind of talking to them, and then they just said, hey, can I, point out something? And I two separate comics. Now, I've talked a lot about who to take feedback from on this podcast because you can get bad advice, especially from other comics. It's very possible and even common. And, sometimes you got to measure their intentions. Sometimes you got to, really take what they're saying with a grain of salt. But both of them said something actually very similar, but in two different ways. And it had to do with me coming across as very almost aggressive towards the audience. Now, it was an open mic, and by the time I got up, there was like maybe 3 or 4 audience members and then maybe 7 or 8 comics. So it's a very empty room. This is all new material. I don't feel confident with it yet. I feel very nervous, and I just went really big. It's like I'm going to go at these people, even though their numbers are small. I'm going to go at them very aggressively. And they had both pointed that out in their own way. And one of them, I had a more in-depth discussion, and it's not actually something that I haven't heard before, and I've actually heard it in different contexts. In essence, I just have a tendency to be very loud. In some cases, even in like a couple months ago, I was at lunch with a buddy of mine, and we're just sitting across the table, and he's like, Paul, you're kind of yelling. And I know the energy that I'm in, and it's a sort of fight or flight energy. It's sort of a nervous energy. And a lot of it just has to do with, I'm actually really introverted, and I'm almost never comfortable outside. If I had a choice, I would just stay inside my room all the time, and I actually do that a lot. So even like going outdoors or being around people it just isn't comfortable for me. Even just with friends or whatever, I have this sort of nervous energy in me, and it's like 100x whenever I step on a stage, no matter the circumstance, no matter the audience. And a lot of that was honed as a comedic improviser, as a comedic actor. I was on stage, we weren't mic'd, and so I would always be performing to the back of the room. So I have this sort of gear that I go into, which is, I'm performing now, and I get very loud and very big. And it comes from this like sort of pit of nervousness, like right here in my chest. And the problem with that is, and the problem that both of these comics pointed out in their own way, is it actually can potentially sort of push an audience back. It's almost like I'm yelling at them instead of having a conversation with them. And comedy is a conversation. And so it's like I can still do act outs, I can still be big, but me being consciously aware that my tendency is with my voice to get very loud, and it's not just in performances, it's even when I'm just out in public having lunch with my buddy who's across the table from me, and for some reason I feel inclined, just my natural default state is to just speak very loudly. You know, probably some childhood thing I haven't discovered in therapy, but really good feedback, very valuable, because I'm trying to step into a new space of really refining my comedic act to be the best it can be. And since I know that that loud volume actually isn't coming from a character, isn't coming from a place of authenticity, it's actually coming from a place of nervousness, coming from some sort of need to be heard or some sort of fear that I'm not funny. And so it's almost like I've got to be so loud and so big out of this sort of nervous insecurity that there's no way they won't laugh. And I don't think that that is how I want my comedy to be. And so I've been thinking about that a lot after the open mic last night, and it's something for me to, I think that was good feedback. I appreciated it. I think it was well intentioned. I didn't sense any sort of ill-intended agenda by either of those comics. And I think it will serve me. I think it will serve me and serve my act if I can learn to still have the same energy, to still have the same opinion, to still have the same passion, but to be cognizant that I am not responding to a fight or flight aggression or loudness as a defense mechanism to actually push the audience away. Which is what I think I'm doing when I really started to like kind of get in my head and start going, wow, that's interesting. What's going on there? Where's that coming from? How is that manifesting? And I went back and I recorded the set and I watched the set and I saw it in there and I went, okay. And the fact that two separate comics who didn't, talk about it happened to just pull me aside, and this was like right after my set. One of them talked to me outside briefly, and then one of them had a conversation with inside. So very interesting, and all part of this journey that I'm going on of just constant refinement, honing it down, honing my craft. It's the whole, was it Leonardo who said, I didn't carve the David, I just carved away everything that wasn't David, or something like that. Goes, my job isn't to carve the statue, it's to carve everything out that isn't the statue. It's something like that. Any of you art people probably know that quote and know who actually said it and know what it actually is, but I do know the meaning of it. And so I think this is just another opportunity for me to go, can I carve away some of this it's not the energy I'm carving away, it's carving away how my energy is being expressed on stage in a manner that maybe actually diminishes what I'm saying instead of enhancing it, which is whatever's going on subconsciously or neurologically, and, the autonomous nervous system and all that stuff, because it's very automatic. I mean, the fact that I do it at lunch with a buddy the same way that I do it on stage, I think is very telling that, there's an underlining or an underpinning of some sort of neurological programming that is causing all that. So very interesting observations. Very grateful for those observations, and very much looking forward to how my comedy will potentially be more effective if I'm not yelling it at people, but still bringing the same energy and the same fun and opinions to it, but trying to invite the audience in instead of yell them away. So very interesting stuff to work on. So everybody, that is the update for today on, June 7th? Yes, June 7th, 2024, episode 191. Oh, by the way, yesterday was 190, but I called 189. So there's 289 episodes and not a 190. Although in all of the titles and stuff, I said 190. I typed 190, but when I did the podcast, I said 189. In case any of you were following along or confused, this is episode 191. And I hope all of your dreams are going well, that you are finding opportunities to get feedback where it is appreciated and warranted and well-intentioned, and are able to take that feedback and potentially put yourself in a better position to get your dreams, baby. So I love you all so much. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.